Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be ranking every single one of the theatrically released Transformers movies. I might be missing one. I think that there is a movie that came out in the 80s, but I could not find it anywhere. So I'm just going to be ranking all of the Michael Bay movies. The Bumblebee movie, Transformers Rise of the Beast, and Transformers 1. I'm insanely excited about this. I've been rewatching these movies on a little watch series on my channel recently. So I've went through and I've rewatched all of them recently, and I'm going to go ahead and rank them worst to best. Let's dive into this, shall we? Alrighty, so coming in 8th place, we have an absolutely giant mess of a film, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Here's the thing, there are some elements of this movie that are relatively decent. I think that the action, for the most part, in this movie still lives up pretty well to the first Transformers movie, and I think that there's definitely some hilarious sequences, but this movie is so obviously not written. Like, I think that there's a lot of elements of this film where it's like, you're going from this scene to this scene to this scene, and then all of a sudden we're on the other side of the world. We're in Egypt now, and we're doing Egypt things. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. That makes sense. And there's just a lot of elements of that don't make a lot of sense. I think that a lot of the risque kind of humor that he typically goes for in his movies, Michael Bay, does not work in this film. I think that a lot of those jokes are absolutely terrible. And I think that, for the most part, this movie just has no good storyline that actually feels earned or deserved. And I think that a lot of the action sequences are the only redeeming parts of this movie. And even them sometimes have a lot of really messy moments. Like, for some reason, there's the sequence where one of the robots has balls for some reason. That was really weird, actually. I think that that's incredibly strange. Coming in 7th place, we have the 5th Transformers movie, Transformers The Last Knight. Once again, this one has decent action sequences. There are moments of this film that I relatively like, and there are definitely elements of it that are okay. However, this movie feels incredibly weird because we just have Mark Wahlberg kind of being a babysitter for a lot of these Transformers. We have a lot of elements of this film that I feel like could have worked relatively well. Like, we introduce Megatron is working with the U.S. government for some reason because, yeah, the U.S. government are kind of evil. They would work with Decepticons because why wouldn't they? And then he's, getting a bunch of his people freed from jail so that he could have his whole team of Decepticons. And we're getting this cool montage where it's like, there's this guy, and then there's this other dude, and then we've got this other guy who's going to be a really cool Decepticon. And they're giving us these Transformers and Decepticons that actually have personalities, are colorful, look different enough that when you have them fighting against each other, you're actually going to be able to be like, oh, well, yeah, this is that guy, this is that guy. And it's so exciting to me because as much as I like these Transformers movies, and I had a good time watching them during this little watch-along series, there's a lot of sequences where it's like, kind of looks like if a kid takes one random toy and another random toy and just kind of shove them together. That's what a lot of these action sequences look like and feel like. And in this movie, I was like, they're finally kind of doing something to tackle that by introducing a lot of different Transformers and Decepticons that have a lot of different personalities, and then they are murdered off in literally 2 minutes. You get the montage that introduces them. You get the scene of them rolling into this little junkyard area where they're going to fight against Optimus Prime and some of the other guys. And then they get slaughtered immediately. Every single one of them gets slaughtered immediately. And it's like, finally, something that I'm enjoying about these movies, and it gets killed off instantly. Once again, they are changing the origin story of how long the Transformers have been on Earth, and they're, okay, well, they actually were, around during the Knights of the Round Table. And one of them was friends with Merlin. And it's like, what the absolute hell? No! That makes absolutely no sense. And then another thing, once again, this movie had a lot of potential, did not use any of it. There's a sequence for this movie, I think it's like a solid 20-minute period where it's like, oh my god, Optimus Prime is being brainwashed by this evil witch Transformers robot lady that's up in outer space, and it's like we get an evil Optimus Prime for a little bit, and it lasts all about 2 minutes. He fights with Bumblebee for a very short amount of time. Mark Wahlberg climbs on him and doesn't die for whatever fucking reason, and we just don't get to actually spend any time with the cool concept of the fact that Optimus Prime is brainwashed and evil right now. I just hate it because this movie introduced a lot of interesting concepts. It's almost 3 hours long, and it doesn't spend enough time with the concepts that actually work in this movie. Coming in 6th place, we have Transformers Age of Extinction. You introduce dinosaurs in the world of the Transformers. You think that would be an incredible, incredible movie, but like with a lot of these Transformers movies, they have to focus on the human characters, and they start off with the 2 human characters being played by T.J. Miller and Mark Wahlberg. Here's the thing. I personally am a relatively big fan of neither of those guys, actually. I don't know where I was going with that. But overall, this movie has a lot of humor that almost works, But then they also have scenes like the guy having to explain that Romeo and Juliet laws are a thing that exists, and it's okay for him to be dating this underage girl, and he pulls out a laminated copy of the Romeo and Juliet laws. Hey, why did we do that? Hey, this is supposed to be a fun little movie about alien space robots that transform into regular cars and vehicles. Hey, why did we do that? Hey, did you ever stop and think for a second that maybe we shouldn't do that? I don't know. I feel like this is a movie that would benefit from more action and less, and especially when our jokes about dating underage girls. What the hell, Michael Bay? What is wrong with you? Jesus Christ. Here's the thing. Here's the other thing. This movie could have been great. This movie had a lot of potential. They set up dinosaurs and Transformers together. That's awesome. If you're going to make a movie completely go off the rails, that's how you do it. You bring in dinosaurs. That's a great concept. However, once again, this movie is almost 3 hours long, and it is not worth watching. This movie just keeps going and going and going and going. They killed off TJ Miller, though. They got 1+. Coming in 5th place, we have Transformers: The Dark of the Moon. This is the last one of the original trilogy with Shia LaBeouf, and I will say, I think that there is actually a lot of charisma that Shia LaBeouf has that makes these movies work a little bit well. I think that he's somebody who's so off the rails and hyperactive throughout these movies that it's actually incredibly entertaining to watch him, and I think that Sam, by far, is one of the most entertaining human characters in all of these Transformers movies. I think that his relationship with Bumblebee is relatively interesting, and I think that for the most part, this movie has a lot of really fun action sequences. I love the fact that this movie, the final act, is taking place in a big city. I believe it takes place in Chicago, and I really like the fact that we're having Transformers in a location that actually feels real, as opposed to the first Transformers movie. They have a bunch of fight sequences that are in the middle of random fields, or in the middle of the woods, or in the middle of deserts. And in the second movie, once again, they go to ancient Egypt so that they can have these fight sequences in the middle of the desert. And this one, they decide, you know what, high stakes, this guy is trying to, destroy the world, and there's going to be a lot of really bad chaos. We're going to do this in the middle of a big city. It feels like a great disaster movie. There's a lot of action sequences that work relatively well with it. I still think that for the most part, the plot is relatively forgettable and basic, but I do really enjoy the fact that we're getting to explore this city. We get to explore what it would be like if these Transformers are, in a big city destroying skyscrapers. I think that it's great. And once again, I think that the action sequences for the most part work relatively well in this movie. And there's a lot of elements that are entertaining. I think that the actors in this movie have a great time. And once again, this is a really good one with, I just said his name, Sam. Who was he played by? Shia LaBeouf. I think that he's fun in this movie. And I think that that's one of the best parts about this particular movie. Coming in 4th place, we have Transformers: Rise of the Beast. I think that this movie doesn't do enough with the Beast, in my opinion, for it to be higher up on this list. But we do get a lot of really fun action sequences. I think that the sequence at the end of the movie where Bumblebee comes out of the plane and he's singing, I'm gonna knock you out, Mama said knock you out. That entire sequence is absolutely incredible. He just comes out of that airplane and just destroys Decepticons for a solid, 2 minutes straight. It is absolutely incredible. I think that the action in this movie is phenomenal. I think that for the most part, we have our man Anthony Ramos in this movie, and I am a diehard Hamilton fan, so Anthony Ramos is an actor that I will absolutely love and adore in almost any role that he's in, so I have a lot of fun with him in this role in particular. I think that for the most part, the Transformers that we're introduced to in this movie, Mirage, and characters like that, are very entertaining. They have a lot of fun personalities, and we're getting a lot of fun action sequences throughout this movie. I think that the concept of there being these 4 kind of elemental Transformers that we're introduced to throughout this film, and they're in danger and they have to go and protect them, is very fun. And they're hiding, I can't remember what it was. It was 2 parts of some stick of destiny, whatever. They have a lot of MacGuffins in all of these movies. It's the MacGuffin of this film. However, they have a MacGuffin in every fucking film. I don't know. I personally like this movie. I think that this movie does go off the rails a little bit towards the end, where they decide to have Mirage basically become an Iron Man suit for Anthony Ramos's character. But other than that, there's some great elements to this movie. I think that the comedy is the best, and it does it in a way that doesn't have to be disgusting like the Michael Bay movies. But yeah, I enjoy this movie. I think that there's fun to be had with it. Coming in 3rd place, we have the OG Transformers movie. I think that one of the best things about this movie in particular is the fact that They obviously could not afford to have Transformers all throughout this entire movie. This happened in 2007. The CGI budget for that would have been absolutely insane. So instead, for the first hour of this movie, they're doing a good job of setting up the characters. They introduce Megan Fox. They introduce Shia LaBeouf. They have them have their weird little will they won't they relationship. You introduce Bumblebee and have him kind of being like a moody little car that can do whatever the fuck he wants. And it's like, what's going on with this car? There's something up with this car. And I think that that's a whole lot of fun. I think that for the most part in this movie, this is the one where Michael Bay's kind of weird raunchy comedy works the best. I think that the family dynamic in this film is relatively hilarious, and I think that for the most part they set up the Transformers as being more of a mystery as to like what's going on, and then that way when they get revealed, it's actually really, really cool. I think the introduction to Optimus Prime is really well done. I think that he shows up about halfway through the movie, and it doesn't feel like a, oh my god, why have we been dragging our feet so long? Why did he just show up? It feels more like a triumphant, like, aha, they're here now kind of moment, and I really liked that. I think that the scene where Megatron defrosts and then immediately starts killing a bunch of military people is an incredible shot to kind of introduce this character. He feels incredibly threatening right off the bat, and I love that. And we get a lot of really good action sequences throughout this movie, and it has, for the most part, one of the most emotional through lines that we can have in any of these films, which is just Sam's character's relationship with Bumblebee and him wanting to do whatever he can to kind of like keep his car, because obviously that's his car, but also these are robots and he has no idea what's going on, but like he's trying his best, and I think that that's fun. Coming in second place, I feel like there's a lot that can be learned from this movie. We have Transformers 1. I absolutely love this movie. I think that as an origin story for the Transformers, it works incredibly well. And I think that it has the benefit, which is, one, this movie is animated. Their transformation and everything looks incredibly smooth and fluid in this movie. I think that the voice acting in this film is absolutely incredible. And I think that one of the most important things is these guys are aliens, and for some reason in the majority of the Transformers movies, they just kind of like have them be sent to Earth, and we don't understand why they're transforming into cars. We don't understand why they're trying to blend in on Earth. And this movie does an incredible job of setting up what's actually going on Cybertron, why these people needed to flee to America, and kind of explains, sorry, I said America, I meant Earth. And I think that it just does an incredible job of establishing these Transformers as, you know, regular people who have day jobs, who are being, you know, oppressed by this government that is absolutely tyrannical and is absolutely terrible. And I think that they do such an incredible job with the story of Orion Pax and I'm not remembering the name of Megatron before he is Megatron, but just overall their relationship and how they're relatively close friends. I like the fact that Megatron and Optimus Prime once upon a time were close friends, and then they had this really bad falling out because one of them thinks that, okay, well, we just took over this oppressive leaders, now we get to be the leaders, and the other one kind of understands that, hey, if we replace these oppressive leaders, we're just going to repeat the cycle, and then eventually we're going to become repressive. Oppressive? Is that a word? We're going to pretend like that's a word. And I like the fact that there's that kind of like nuance to it. I think that this movie is absolutely incredible. And as a kid's movie, does such an incredible job kind of showing some of the like terrors of being in an oppressed government and being in a place where they don't treat you fairly, they don't give you the love and respect that you deserve. And I think that the way that they kind of handle like slavery in this movie is actually insane. Like, it is really, really deep and nuanced, and I loved it. I thought that this movie was absolutely incredible. But that being said, our number one spot is going to be Bumblebee. I think that a lot of these Transformers movies are missing one thing in particular, and that is an incredibly emotional through line. I think that Hailee Steinfeld in this movie is absolutely incredible, and her relationship with Bumblebee is fantastic, and it low-key is exactly what the Transformers movies needed. A moody teenager who is going through a lot, who's going through something incredibly real that we as the audience can relate to, experiencing, okay, well, I got this car, and now this car is turning into a robot, and now this robot's saying that there's people after us, and we're gonna die, and oh my god, I got tangled up in this weird thing that I don't really know what's going on, but I know that we're in danger, and for some reason the American government is trying to steal my car and saying that my car is an evil monster, and her having to defend her car. I love it. I think that the way that they build the relationship between Hailee Steinfeld's character and Bumblebee is so well done throughout this movie. I think that making Bumblebee into a character kind of similar to like E.T. or Clark Kent, and us seeing kind of like the destruction of Krypton type sequence was absolutely phenomenal. Like, I do like the fact that we see why they're on Earth, and they do a good job of establishing it and actually having a well-written story for it. And I think that at the end of the day, that's why I have it ranked as my number one Transformers movie. This is just by far the best well-written movie. I think that Transformers Transformers 1 obviously is absolutely incredible as well, but there's a lot of moments of that movie where it feels slow and it feels like it's struggling to get to the point, whereas Bumblebee, this movie is 2 hours, but it absolutely feels like it needs to be 2 hours. I think that they have an incredible emotional through line, and I think that for the most part, Bumblebee and Haley Steinfeld's character need each other just as much as they need each other. Like, it's not like okay, well, she really needs Bumblebee, and, you know, Bumblebee, it's just kind of, you know, maybe needs her. He does. And I like that. And I think that that's awesome. But yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. And if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe. And I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow.